Hey, Dustin.
What's up, Hooper?
I am melancholy today.
Cool. Why so glum?
It's been a hell of a news day.
Oh, gotcha. Yep, sure.
It's just been one of those kind of things, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like writing like a thing about it. And I was like, boy, how do people like, a lot of people are asking the question right now, like, should I just stick my head in the sand? Like, how do I take a break from this without like shirking like my civic duty?
Sure.
You know, and there's like no good answer.
Yep. Right.
It's a whole thing. So, well, hey, if you're listening to this, it's Friday and there has not been a nuclear holocaust yet. So lucky you get to listen to Dustin's review of the Karate Kid. Karate Kid Legends.
Lucky you.
Yeah. Dustin talks about the movie, spoiler free for all of you people who are still on the fence. And, for those people who have seen the movie or don't care about spoilers, there's a whole spoiler section and, Dustin starts fixing the story. And as usual, it sounds pretty great and it makes you kind of mad about reality, but that's kind of going around lately.
Reality bites.
I'm sort of mad about reality too. And I have ideas to improve it, but alas.
Here's what we need to do. Let's just all move to the Shire.
Yes.
And when we get there, let's all just put on good movies.
Yes. I want to, I would think that if the Shire was still like around, like in modern
like
day,
Middle Earth was, yeah, sure.
It would have like a town center projection screen style, like,
oh yeah, totally
film. Like that'd be a thing.
Yeah. They'd pass around the ale and everybody would watch The Godfather Part 2.
Yes.
And they would turn to each other and go, "What's an Italian?
What is? Why are they wearing shoes? Dumbasses. So cumbersome." All right, everybody, please enjoy the Karate Kid Legends review.
You want to talk about it?
My mom wants us to leave everything behind.
Sometimes it is the only way to move forward.
You come to America. New rules. New school. No fighting. You make any friends?
Yeah, I did. One.
What's his name?
Mia?
You study karate or something?
Kung Fu. Used to. I don't do any of that anymore.
Yeah, you're clearly over it.
Who's your friend?
Connor, don't start.
You really want to do this?
You can't step to guys like him. He wins the 5 boroughs every year. It's the biggest tournament in the city.
In life, you have only one question. Is it worth fighting for it or not?
So we're just supposed to let him fight. So that he can end up like his brother.
So that he does not end up like his brother. Lee means to me what you meant to Sensei Miyagi. I want Lee to learn Miyagi karate.
I'm sorry, Mr. Han. I wish I could help you.
You will.
I'm not coming to New York.
I will see you in the Big Apple. Sensei LaRusso.
Let's make a Karate Kid.
You have a foundation of Kung Fu.
We're gonna build upon that with karate.
Ancient way.
Miyagi way. There's 2 of them. Focus! This represents the history between the 2 families. 2 branches, 1 tree. This is why I came to train you. Remember what you're fighting for.
When you understand that, you'll be ready.
Not a great title. Don't love the title. I don't know what it means.
did you think that maybe like before you actually saw the film, were you giving it a chance? Like maybe this is a great title. And then now
no,
have you seen the film?
I never liked the title. I don't understand like what the thought was. Like I knew, or at least I assumed that Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio were not the protagonists here.
Mhm.
So I was like, so really, if we're talking about Ben Wong's character, Li Fong, are we saying that Li is the legend or that he's listening to the legends? In which case, why are they legends? Like, they're not legends. They're here right now. I don't know. It just seems weird.
They're contemporaries.
Legends is something that's like of old, right? Like
Right.
Far off. It's of old. It's hard to believe in some way.
Mythic almost, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is like a guy. Like I know like colloquially we say like these guys are legends, right? But I don't know. It just feels like a lofty title for something that doesn't need to be lofty. Anyway, Karate Kid Legends. Karate
Nice
Kid
try,
Legends. Well, I'll say like the nitpicking begins here but doesn't end here. Karate Kid Legends is directed by Jonathan Entwistle and written by Rob Leiber. So Rob's writing filmography, he wrote Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. He did the screenplay for Peter Rabbit, the 2018 film, Goosebumps 2, and then Karate Kids Legends. So, and I think he wrote an episode of The Goldbergs. Not the most prestigious resume, but it's fine. Like, anybody
Why
can
isn't
write
he
anything.
hyperlinked?
Oh, sure. There you go. Well, again, not prestigious, but like anybody can write anything. So sure, why not? And then Jonathan Entwistle, I think, comes from television. So not necessarily like super notable. I don't know that this is his first feature, but it might be. I didn't do that much research. Let's see. Director. Yes, I think this is his first feature.
Wow.
It is. So, but it's weird because I feel like I've heard the name Jonathan Entwistle, but I think it's just maybe in reference to this film before. So Karate Kid Legends stars Jackie Chan, Ralph Macchio, Ben Wong, Joshua Jackson, Sadie Stanley, Ming-Na Wen, and a couple other of people you may recognize. Wyatt Oleff, who's from It. There's... but it took me there's like literally 3/4 of the way through the film before I realized where I knew him from. The idea of the film is very familiar to anybody who's familiar with a Karate Kid film. Ben Wong plays a character, Lee. Lee is living in Beijing with his sensei, his shifu, Mr. Han, played by Jackie Chan. And Mr. Han is also his uncle. And then his mother, Ming-Na Wen, gets a residency at a hospital in New York. So they move to New York City. And so, it's fish out of water. It's new kid on the block. And he stumbles upon a small, pizza place that his apartment building shares an alley with. And the girl who works there, Sadie Stanley, he's immediately smitten with. And her father, who owns the pizza shop, played by Joshua Jackson, is a retired boxer who owes money to the wrong people and decides to pick up boxing once again to make enough money to pay off his debt. And when he sees that Lee knows Kung Fu, he says, "Hey kid, train me, help me learn some of the things you know so that I can have an edge in the fight." And so that's the plot of the film. But as you'll notice, is that even
allowed? Is it? Hold on. Is this like underground boxing or is this like sanctioned fights?
Yeah, it feels like I gotta guess it's never really explained, but yeah, it feels more underground because there's a lot of shady people around and.
I feel like Kung Fu wouldn't really help you in a boxing match. Unless I don't think that it really up fight. Doesn't matter what kind of style.
There's one thing that they use that's okay, maybe, which is, besides just speed and dodging, sure.
Yeah.
But Lee teaches him the 1-inch punch, right? If you're up against the ropes and you can't get a full swing in, here's how you can do a 1-inch punch and get get him back, right? So, okay, fine, sure. But yeah, other than that, I just don't really see the correlation.
Mhm.
And so, yeah.
A street like referee is not gonna be like, hey buddy, we only do boxing here. That move is illegal.
Correct.
You can't do that.
You can't just come in here and Jackie Chan this place.
Yeah. You can only stick to one style of fighting, sir.
That's right. So, but as you'll notice, like my explanation of this didn't really explain Ralph Macchio in this film at all. Yeah, it doesn't. So this leads into one of my first complaints, and I'm going to go ahead and get that out of the way. I give this 2.5 stars.
Mhm.
I didn't love this. To me, it's the weakest of all the Karate Kid films, by a long shot.
Including the Jaden Smith one, yeah.
Which I actually think is okay.
Yeah.
But like the
That's
next
the only one I've
Karate
seen.
Kid, the Hilary Swank one,
Mhm.
which people are pretty negative on. I'm like, I enjoyed it. Fine,
Yeah.
it's fine. Or even Karate Kid 3, which people are like, it's kind of dumb. I'm like, I think it's fine. I really like these characters, and so that saves it for me. But yeah, I think it's just a weird. I don't want to say misunderstanding of what Karate Kid is, but it is a misunderstanding of what filmmaking and storytelling is. And I'll explain that. So the filmmaking style, the original Karate Kid was directed by John Avildsen, who did Rocky. And so the original Karate Kid is actually fairly mature in its filmic approach. It's, a lot of long, wide master shots that the actors get to walk through the space and carry on an elongated scene. There's a lot of like true acting. And then there's a lot of really good, it's reserved filmmaking, but it's really good filmmaking because it preserves the emotion because it doesn't chop it up. And so when you see Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi and Ralph Macchio as Daniel LaRusso, and they're together, by lingering and allowing those two characters just to sit in a room together, it really draws you in a way that only a mature film can do. And so, yes, The Karate Kid is made for a younger demographic than Rocky was, but its filmic intentions are the same as Rocky. And so if we juxtapose The Karate Kid with Karate Kid Legends, this is a really hyper frenetic, fast-paced, edited thing that feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be. So a lot of the film, like it almost feels like the majority of the film is told in montage to some track that doesn't fit. And like, some sort of hip hop track or something. Like I didn't really recognize any of the music, but it's all, sourced music. Regardless, it's just really fast paced. And if you remember Ang Lee's Hulk movie, how it almost had like panels, as like comic booky, this does the exact same thing. So there's like a moment where a character walks in like to an area where another character is, and they split screen it. So you see the character's reaction and the other character's reaction with a big black bar in between.
Mhm.
And then when the moment sells, then the black bar moves and the whole camera thing like shifts over to a new thing. And then like a new thing comes in, and they like are always like moving these black bordered scenes into frame, like these panels into frame. It's a really weird thing that none of the other Karate Kid films do.
Yeah.
And so in my head, I want to immediately compare this to something like Creed 3, which does things that no other Rocky film ever did.
Sure.
But here's the difference. Like Creed 3 to me felt personal to Michael B. Jordan.
Mhm.
And because it felt personal to him, and like this is his artistic sensibility and it's his story and it's, like his baby, so to speak, I give it a pass because it feels a little bit like Stallone babying the Rocky films. It's like, I'm making this personally and this is what I want it to be.
Yeah.
And it fits, regardless, it fits the character.
Yeah.
Like the idea of this, sort of, anime inspired thing that Michael B. Jordan was doing somehow fits Adonis's personality and, whatever. So I give it a pass. This does not fit Li Feng's character. If he was also like super into comic books or really into like music videos or something, it would feel okay. But then the film, like when it does its like tournament stuff where the karate, the kung fu people are fighting, it turns into Scott Pilgrim. Because now you have like motion graphics and animations and like a character punches. And so, they explain, like these announcers explain, a punch to the chest is worth 1 point, a punch to the head is worth 2. So now every punch gets a +1 motion graphic or a +2 motion graphic.
A shot counter.
Yeah. And it feels very Scott Pilgrim-ish.
Uh-huh.
And, there's like, these like wavy animations and whatever. And it's like final showdown and, there's like lightning bolts and like animations of the characters and whatever. And it's just so out of place in this franchise.
Yeah.
And there's nothing about Lee. Like, again, if they had said Lee is really into comics or Lee is really into animated, like he's also an animator, like whatever they could have said would have, okay, maybe I'll give that a pass because it feels like it fits the character. But it doesn't fit the character in the way that Creed 3 fits Adonis and by extension, Michael B. Jordan. This doesn't fit at all. And it certainly doesn't fit into either the Karate Kid trilogy or the Karate Kid film, the Jaden Smith one, which didn't do any of that. So I don't understand the thought process behind that and why the film is told in montage and why the film is told like it's super rushed. It's 90 minutes. Thereabouts. It's what 100. It's an hour 34 minutes. So 94 minutes.
Yeah.
The film is super rushed. Again, everything's a montage. Everything is panels moving across the screen to get you to the next thing. It's just like go, 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 go. And I'm like, this feels so disparate from what the original Karate Kid was, which was like, again, yes, it was made for a younger demographic, but it felt filmic. It felt like cinematic in a way that this feels more like a music video than anything else. It feels like some dude made this for YouTube. And that's a problem. And especially when you compare the fact that the first 2 seasons of Cobra Kai were legitimately made for YouTube and they feel more cinematic than this. It's a very strange thing. So I want to get that like just out of the way up front. I did not enjoy the filmmaking approach. And I think that it doesn't fit the franchise and it didn't even fit this film. There's nothing about this film that called for that approach. Instead, and like I heard there was somebody, I watched maybe it's on the trailer or something on YouTube and I watched after and there was a comment that said, I worked on this film and I don't know how much I can say, but there's a lot left on the editing room floor. And I'm like, I can see that.
Yeah.
And he said, whatever they did, he said, I read most of the script, like the portions that were relevant to me. And he's as a crew member. And he said, and what I read and what I see is 2 very different things. And then this person, I'm saying he, I don't know. This person also says that the original intention was something slower, and it feels like they were trying to salvage or please somebody specifically in the edit. Yeah, because it didn't. Like when they were making it, the crew didn't envision this happening to it. Yeah. So whatever they did, and maybe it's the editor who sat down and goes like, "Hey, you could do this," and the director just went, "Oh, that's cool, great, go with it," because he didn't have a vision or relied on the editor's stylistic approach or what have you. But it feels weird.
Slapped together in that sense.
Exactly. And like the fact that it's montage, like there's a moment that's in the trailer. So, okay, we're in spoilers. There's a moment in the trailer where Ralph Macchio is sitting down with Lee and Ralph has Daniel LaRusso has a headband and it has the Miyagi-Do logo, something similar to this. on the headband, and it says it's like a more ancient version of this, and it said, and he says 2 branches, 1 tree, referring to Mr. Han's version of kung fu and Miyagi's version of karate, and like it's the same thing, 2 branches of 1 tree, and so that leads you to believe that there's this touching moment between them. What you see in the trailer is exactly the length of it in the film. There's no context to it in the film, and it's stuck in the middle of a montage. So any chance that it could have any emotional weight is completely stripped, because there's nothing, there's not like a moment where Lee is feeling torn between the 2 branches. There's not a moment where he's feeling like, hey, I've always learned from my uncle, from Han Shifu, and I want to learn from you. But and then maybe Daniel comes to him and goes, no, it's the same, right? Like there should be a conflict that then this talk is resolving. Yeah. But instead it's like a training montage. And then they're just sitting on a street corner, and he's giving him this thing. And I'm like, yeah, this has to be like a 3-page scene that got cut down to 5 lines of dialogue. Yeah. And shoved in the middle of a montage. And it's so frustrating, because I'm like, was somebody saying this has to be 90 minutes, or was somebody saying,
or I'll kill your family? Like, this is, figure something out.
Yeah, figure it out. Well, this Karate Kid film can't be over 90 minutes. I don't know. It just feels so lost in translation between what I'd imagine like a writer would write, and it makes it feel like, no disrespect to Rob Leiber, but like it makes it feel like it was written by AI. It's like the AI knows we have to hit these beats and we have to say these things, but there's no context to it. There's nothing to support why we're doing it.
It's just like a cool sounding line.
Yeah.
But you need to give it context. Like it's like a cool line from a trailer, and they just put cool line from trailer in movie.
Correct.
Minus context.
Minus context.
Rob A. Iber.
Right. And it's so weird that way that it is, it's just so rushed. And so like on my Letterboxd, I wrote like a list of things as like random thoughts that I had while watching this. So I'm going to go through a couple of them. So as you would expect with a Karate Kid film, there's an antagonist. In the original Karate Kid film, William Zabka plays Johnny Lawrence, and Johnny Lawrence is just sort of the run-of-the-mill bully. He has a girlfriend, or at least he's interested in this girl, and now Daniel LaRusso is interested in the girl too. And so there's a rivalry there, but Johnny Lawrence is legitimately antagonizing to him, like trying to beat him down. And so there is a real sense of like, I have to one up this guy. I have to win. I have to stand up for myself. And Mr. Miyagi teaches him, like, you have to stand up for yourself. Like karate isn't about offense, it's about defense. And karate isn't about picking a fight, but it is about standing your ground in a fight and putting people who would use their power, to destroy, putting them, down, right? Like stopping that thought, right? Okay, sure. Got it. Fine. And in this, the antagonist just is an antagonist. It's the same sort of thing. Like he used to date Sadie Stanley's character Mia, and now Lee is interested in Mia. So it's the same sort of setup, but the villain, the antagonist, doesn't ever do anything outright antagonistic or villainous to Lee. There is a fight in which Lee gets bested, right? And sure, he trash talks him a little bit. The antagonist trash talks him a little bit, but like he doesn't do anything outright antagonizing.
You could almost argue it's not personal.
He's
just very competitive, and that's
it's just it's competition. Whereas in the Karate Kid, there's that moment where Daniel leaves the school dance. It's like a Halloween dance or whatever. And the entire Cobra Kai dojo are dressed as skeletons for the dance or whatever. And they attack him, like corner him. And they're like ready to beat the crap out of him. And Mr. Miyagi has to come save him. Like that's antagonistic. That's like, no one's here. We're going to beat the pulp out of you.
We don't like you.
Yeah, exactly. It's personal.
Yeah.
And that's what this film is lacking. Like the villain has no teeth. I just retold the plot. The plot, he's got to now train this boxer. So this storyline is then completely dropped in favor of this tournament thing, which feels like two different movies, like jammed into one. It's still 90 minutes. So it's just like,
wow. Yeah.
But like, but so that's all that happens. That's the catalyst. That's what, the story is about. And we begin to learn that Lee has an older brother, or had an older brother, and they both fought together for Mr. Han's dojo, and they were at a tournament. His older brother won the tournament, and his rival was so upset at losing that he stabbed the older brother and killed him.
Whoa.
And as the older brother is dying, or like about to be stabbed, he looks at Lee and says, like, help me. And Lee's frozen in fear and can't help his brother, and his brother dies.
Oh, boy.
And so so Joshua Jackson plays the boxer. He's learned all of, Lee's, kung fu tricks. He goes into this fight, his very first fight back in the ring, and gets decimated and ends up in the hospital. And as they're wheeling him, the boxer, into the hospital, he freezes again. And like right when they need him, like, hey, come be a part of this. Like, you're our friend, and, come be a part of this. He freezes. He won't go into the hospital. He can't, because it reminds him of his brother and all this. So this is like good storytelling, like, okay, cool. I dig the backstory. I like the fact that, he freezes under pressure. Like that's a good thing. Like he's very talented, but he can't handle the pressure and stress of an actual fight or anything with real stakes. Okay, got it. So now the film devolves. He's mad at himself because he didn't go in to help his girlfriend's dad, who's now, in the hospital. He couldn't bring himself to do it. He's mad at himself. Mr. Han shows up and says, like, and gives him, I guess maybe the only piece of good advice in this whole thing is like, when a friend has a problem, it is your problem. And so he's like, this guy owes money. If you win this tournament, you win money and you can pay off your friend's debts. And so you need to win this tournament now. His problem is your problem. He's your friend. Okay, cool. Fine.
Nice.
So it is a little bit weird now that Lee is like essentially competing in this tournament for money, but it's an altruistic thing.
Right.
Sure, it's splitting hairs. It does still feel weird that like, when it comes down to it, like, what are you fighting for? Money. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
But there's that. But again, I still haven't said anything about Daniel LaRusso. So as it turns out, Mr. Han knew Mr. Miyagi, and before Miyagi, I guess shortly after Miyagi had sort of taken on Daniel as a pupil, Mr. Han and Miyagi had dinner together, and as old friends, and Miyagi was like, if you ever need anything, come and find me. And so Mr. Han is like, I need Miyagi now because Lee is in trouble and needs to win this tournament, and my skills in kung fu are only going to go so far, so he needs karate to help bridge the gap. Okay, fine. Except he says, like, I know Mr. Miyagi's not alive. So first, Mr. Han travels from Beijing to New York to tell Lee, you're going to fight in this tournament. Then he flies from New York to California to go to Miyagi-Do.
Could have just called.
And so Daniel-san is like, who are you? And he's like, hey, I know Miyagi's passed, but he's an old friend of mine, and I believe you will honor Miyagi's promise to me, and I need you to help train him. We've never met, but I need you to help train Lee.
Yeah.
So of course Daniel's like, sure, fine, so he does. He travels to New York and does the thing. But what then ensues with Daniel is essentially that one scene that's 3 lines of dialogue, 2 branches, 1 tree, sitting on a curb. It's in a montage, and then a bunch of montage scenes of him training Lee. And then like a quick moment at the beginning where he's like, hey, Lee, I'm Daniel LaRusso, Mr. Miyagi and Mr. Han go way back and like, whatever, I've just met Mr. Han, but cool, I'm here to help you. And Lee's like, well, how am I going to learn karate in a week? And Daniel's like, yeah, true. And so then, but I'll teach you what I know, right?
Listen, I don't even want to be here.
Right. It makes the whole thing seem like you're going to teach this dude, even if he is skilled, in a week, all of Miyagi's lessons. Like it took you I can't remember what the original movie, like what the time frame is, but like clearly even after that first movie, he's still learning. Like it's not like he's learned everything Miyagi had to teach in that first movie. And it feels like the implication here is like, I'm instilling everything that I know from Mr. Miyagi to you. And there's like a line of dialogue. There's one scene that you get really between Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio where they're alone and Jackie Chan, or maybe two. And Jackie Chan's like, it was great of you to come. This is really going to help Lee. And Ralph Macchio says something like, anytime I get to share Miyagi's wisdom or lessons with the next generation is always a good thing. Right. And my problem with this line is you're teaching Lee karate techniques. But what Mr. Miyagi taught you were life techniques, and karate was always second. Like, right. So to me, it's a fundamental misunderstanding. Miyagi did not teach, like he did teach Daniel karate, but he didn't just teach Daniel karate. And the idea that Daniel comes in and teaches Lee karate moves, and that's the summation of Mr. Miyagi's teaching. Right.
Anyone can teach you karate,
Yeah, that's a huge misunderstanding. The whole point is Miyagi was Daniel's son's dad, so to speak, like best friend and dad. So to say like, I'm just going to teach you some moves and this is me passing on Miyagi's wisdom. No, this is you passing on Miyagi's technique, but it is not you passing on Miyagi's wisdom. And that's a big misunderstanding.
Is that what Han meant by saying like, hey, there's only so much my kung fu can get this kid? Does he mean like,
it's unclear. Okay. You could read it either way.
The wisdom has to be, that's the only way that makes sense to me, because it's like he needs to learn karate and then he'll be good.
There's a mention in the final fight of like Daniel shouts out to Lee, find your balance, which is something that Miyagi was always about, like balance. You have to have balance. But this is the first mention of the word balance in the film. So there's no context to Daniel saying, find your balance. What does this mean to Lee? It doesn't mean anything. It means a little bit to me because I've seen all the Karate Kid films.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean anything to him.
No.
And certainly not just in the bubble of this film.
Yeah.
So it's a weird misunderstanding of like what Miyagi actually meant to Daniel.
Yeah.
And whereas the show Cobra Kai really milked every aspect of that emotional relationship of like, Daniel now having to make these big decisions without Miyagi here. And like him sort of envisioning, what would Miyagi tell me? Like I'm trying to live up to him, but he's not here. I don't know what he would do. I'm struggling. These are like real world things of like people who, they lose their parent and now they're trying to like think like, what advice would my dad have given me in this situation? But I can't hear his voice, like this is such a specific situation. I feel like I don't know what my dad would advise me to do. And that's like a real thing that people feel. And then in this film, he mentions like, I miss Miyagi, but there's no implication of like why that's because there's no emotional arc for Daniel. Like there's nothing that Daniel's learning through this, and there's no challenge to Daniel as a person or as to his moral framework. Whereas Cobra Kai challenges his framework in that he's looking at Johnny Lawrence as a bully. Johnny Lawrence always bullied me, and now I have to like somehow put that aside and see Johnny as a good guy. Like I can't just do that. I can't forgive all of this. And the idea of like, no, Daniel, you do need to forgive him. You do need to let that go. Like that can't be all that Johnny is. Find some good in him. That's what Miyagi would have wanted, right? Like that's a an emotional thing. That's something that's challenge to Daniel's character. Everything in me says, forget this guy. He was a jerk to me in high school. But I have to be challenged now to learn, like, I have to give this guy a chance. And that's a challenge to his moral framework. There's nothing like that for Daniel here. He is set dressing. He's wallpaper on a scene that just is nostalgia and a reason that this is called Karate Kid. Yeah. And it also reeks of, this is a script written as a sequel to Jackie Chan's Karate Kid film. And because Cobra Kai was popular, let's shoehorn Daniel into this, even though there's no reason for him to be here.
Do you wonder if this script was, I mean, there's probably no way to figure this out. But do you wonder if this script was written much closer to when that film was made and then they just kind of shelved it?
It's possible.
Until the show got popular and then...
It wouldn't surprise me, because if I can't, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been so long since I've seen Jaden Smith's Karate Kid, but isn't his mom a doctor or something?
Let me see.
Why did they move to Beijing?
His widowed mother, Sherry, moved from Detroit to Beijing after she gets a job transfer at a car factory.
Oh, a car factory. Okay. So not a doctor. Well, anyway, I was going to say, like, yeah, it kind of is an easy thing that, like, in this, it's also like a mom moving son to New York. Yeah, this could have been that, like, now a more grown Jaden Smith's mom moves him back to New York and Mr. Han comes to help him there. Sure. Like, maybe this was a script or like a story idea from way back when that they just recycled, shoehorned Daniel into and said, there you go. It's a movie. It doesn't pass the sniff test to me.
I mean, and it's conceivable that, like, they did find a more meaningful, like, exploration of, like, that father-son relationship once a father has passed away. Like, that's something that is, I feel, underrepresented in film, is that feeling of parental loss, and not just, like, as part of a plot, but, like, I don't hear anecdotally enough really, like, the pain of losing a parent, because it's more than just my dad's dead. It's like, especially if you have a close relationship with your parents, like that foundation of what makes you feel secure, even as an adult, being gone is just more confirmation of how kind of on your own you are. Yeah. And how, the person you may have gone to for advice for all kinds of things is gone and all kinds of stuff. So, like, that should be at play in a film about, with those dynamics at play. And so they either missed a chance to do that, or they wrote it and shot it, and then some dum-dum in the edit was like, nope,
cut it out.
Cut it all out. And so Daniel, Ralph Macchio sits down the premiere and is shocked to realize he's barely in the film.
Which is very possible.
None of the stuff he signed on to do is there either.
There's in the admittedly small amount of research I did for the film, but it doesn't take much to figure this out. Yeah. There were scenes shot with a Miyagi stand-in, which means they shot, or at least planned to feature Miyagi as a character in this film. Now, how they were going to achieve that, deep fake, de-aging, I don't know, but or maybe it was just the stand-in shot in blurry backgrounds, I don't know. Just outside of the depth of field. I'm not sure, but there was that, and that's not in the film at all. There's no reason for it to be. So I'm like, so that tells me not only did they shoot something that wasn't in there, but it's so tonally and, like, story wise different than anything I see, that it feels like not only was that cut out, but some big story element was chopped out of this film. So I don't know. But yes, you're right. Like, what Cobra Kai did well, and why I liked Cobra Kai, was it did give plenty for all of these characters to do. And it grappled, I think specifically maybe in season 2, it could have been 3, with a little bit of that parental loss thing. So maybe it would have been treading old territory, but that leads me into my next point, which is, like, this film completely ignores Cobra Kai.
Really?
There is no mention of Cobra Kai at all. So in Cobra Kai, we're introduced to Daniel's wife and 2 kids, and they are not mentioned in this film at all. The closest you get is when Mr. Han says, come to New York and help me train Lee. Daniel says, where I am in life right now, it's just not really easy for me to go to New York. And I'm like,
wow.
Okay, so say because of my wife and child in high school and child in college, I can't move. Sure, whatever. Like, say something, right? Or Cobra Kai ended with him reopening Miyagi-Do in earnest. So I can't leave. I've got all these students.
Yeah.
But instead of like Mr. Han coming and finding Daniel teaching students, he finds him like cleaning a window, like to an empty dojo. And I'm like, the last time we saw this, it was a full dojo.
Yeah, it was thriving. It was a full-blown business.
So we know, and I knew going into this, that the folks who created Cobra Kai were not consulted on this film. And they did not know that this film was happening. This was a film that Sony Pictures dreamed up. And now I know it was probably designed as a sequel to Jackie Chan's film, and then somehow along the way pitched to have Daniel in it. And so that happened, but there was they probably had no insider knowledge of what was going to happen in Cobra Kai.
Jeez.
So there was two completely separate camps. So it was like probably honestly hard for this writer to write if he didn't know what was happening in Cobra Kai. Like, how is that going to end?
Right. And it's so easy to just go watch the show, like do some research, or did they put him in a Faraday cage?
Well, but because they were shooting simultaneously, he wouldn't have known how it ended.
I guess so. Yeah.
So it feels like, I don't know, the snake eating its own tail. You have to, I don't know, man, like communicate between these two camps if you're going to do this. Because someone like me, I'm expecting some sort of narrative through line, and there is none here. Man,
and there's no excuse for that either, because Sony Pictures Television is in charge of Cobra Kai, and this is a Sony film. Like this, you could have one meeting. You just give us the scripts to the final season so that our dude can write this movie, which is good for all of us.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
We're all on the same team.
That's it. Or just tell us what you're going to do. Like, if we include this, is this going to break the canon? Like, whatever.
This is like some Fox X-Men type of shit where we're just going to ignore continuity or double back and do something different. It's just,
correct.
It's so unsatisfying when you're going to make a movie like this. Like, it should fit together like a lock and key, man.
Yeah, it should.
Not like two keys.
Right. There is one mention, and in the final, it's essentially post credits, but credits haven't rolled yet. It's post Karate Kid Legends logo.
Okay.
There's a moment where Daniel's back in California at his dojo, and Johnny Lawrence shows up in that one scene for 30 seconds. And I'm like, okay, so 30 seconds is all you have William Zabka in the film. And it's like a joke moment. It's, classic MCU joke fest of a post credits thing. But I'm like, okay, but that's the only recognition we have of like, you've seen how or know how Cobra Kai ended. But now it just kind of makes everything even more glaring that none of it is referenced.
Right.
There's not even like a timeline given of like how long after Cobra Kai ended does this film take place?
Yeah.
There's no indication. Is it immediate? Is it 10? Well, it wouldn't be 10, but 3 years later? Like, who knows?
That almost feels like a concession the studio gave, like after this cut, like we need to address the show somehow.
Correct.
This film comes out in 3 weeks. What can we do?
It feels like we know how the
get
MCU
William
will
Zabka
film
for
those
2 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The MCU will film these things like a month, 3 weeks before picture lock.
Yeah.
That's what this is. It's okay. We've all seen the end of Cobra Kai now because we all have a Netflix subscription.
Shit, we have to fix something.
Yeah. Just call them in for a day.
Yeah.
Done. And I'm like, but that just makes it more glaring that the rest of it has no continuity.
It's a Band-Aid. It's an obvious desperate Band-Aid.
Correct. But like back to like the story structure, the problem with all of this is like you've set up this boxer as sort of almost like the second character kind of. Like I'm the trainee of Lee, even though he's way older, whatever, but he's the trainee. And then like as soon as he goes to the hospital, he's like out of the film. And now the film becomes about getting money to pay his debts, but he's like out of the film. And I'm like, it just feels like a huge waste that now we're following, like now he's gone, Ralph Macchio comes in, but we have it's two different things. It's two different stories jammed together into one, and it doesn't make any sense. And then like, lastly, I want to talk about the arc, right, of our main character. So, Lee is a character that, like I said, he's suffered some tremendous loss. He freezes under pressure. It is so obvious that there is a moment in this film, in the final fight, where the stakes get really high and he has that moment where he wants to freeze. Yeah. And he fights through that freeze. Maybe there's like so he's fighting and Mr. Hahn's voice, Daniel's voice comes to him, as something that we've heard earlier in the film that says like, when you get hit, when things get heavy, you have to center yourself, find the balance, get yourself, like realign your chakras, get in touch with your chi, whatever it is, right? Like whatever, you want to call it, like do the thing, find your center and fight through that. And then Lee fights through it, overcomes the enemy because he's now able to fight through it. And the victory is felt not just because of the victory of the tournament, and I've now made enough money to pay off my friend's debts and save the pizza shop, but also like it's a personal victory for me because I've overcome this crippling fear or this crippling, like part of myself. None of that happens. There is no moment where he is frozen up again and fights through it. There's no mention of that ever happening again. So we see him freeze when his brother dies. We see him freeze when his trainee gets hit and goes to the hospital. He never freezes again.
And he figures it out off screen.
He never freezes again and is never even pushed to the point where he would. And this is a problem.
Yeah.
And this goes to like that same kind of thing, like in the original Karate Kid, and even in Jaden Smith's version, they are novice. They're both beginners of karate who are very quickly trained, but trained nonetheless to become better than having zero skills at all.
Yeah.
And the catharsis of like a guy going from, I don't know anything about this world to suddenly winning a tournament, that's huge.
Yeah.
In this, Lee, his only problem is that he freezes, but he's an expert prodigy fighter from the beginning. So there's really nothing for him to learn. Yeah. So the idea that Mr. Hahn says, we need Mr. Miyagi's karate to bridge the gap to finish. Okay, fine. But why? Lee is more than proficient as a fighter.
Yeah, he's fine.
In fact, it varies from scene to scene. Literally, there are two scenes back to back. One where he's up against the antagonist and they're fighting and the antagonist kind of like wins by a landslide, right? Like this is the thing that is supposed to make you feel like the antagonist is way stronger than Lee. Okay, fine. But the very next scene is Lee overseeing the debt collectors coming for the boxer. And he jumps out the window and in a very Jackie Chan-esque fight scene, fends off all of these gangsters. It's like 5 gangsters, like big dudes.
Yeah.
And he beats all of them without breaking a sweat. And I'm like, didn't he just get pommeled by a high schooler? you know what I mean? Like power level,
inconsistent.
It's inconsistent. So there can never, because of that, there can never be a catharsis of this guy has learned how to fight better.
Right.
And like, that's the point of the Rocky montages, right? It's, I'm training myself to be better than I was. There are 5,000 montages in this film, but he's not learning anything in any of them. He's not being called to task morally or ethically. Mm-hmm. He's not treated anybody unfairly or unkindly. He's not like being challenged because of some deep-seated prejudice or anything that he had, like you would see in other Karate Kid films. He's not being challenged in any way, and he's not being challenged physically. He's already a winner. And so that's like my biggest problem with this, is that there can never be a catharsis or a victory, like a true felt victory, because there is no true felt problem, and there's no felt adversary to overcome. And like part of what makes both Karate Kid films, and yes, like Chan's is kind of a remake of Pat Morita's, but like what makes both Karate Kid films so strong is like there's that moment where the child is idolizing this guy. He's this, you know, fantastic fighter, and like, I want you to train me. You're so good at everything. And then in both, there's a moment where they come to the dojo and see Miyagi or Han drunk, upset, fighting through some really big personal demons, and they realize that their instructors are human.
Yeah.
And their instructors are flawed people, and that they may be making them better as much as they're making them better, right?
Yeah.
It's a two-way street. And that's a profound moment in both films. And there's nothing like that here. And part of that is because we've seen Daniel fight through his demons, and we've seen Mr. Han fight through his demons with Jaden Smith. So there's no moment of Lee looking up to somebody and realizing they're human and you know, whatever, which, like, again, like, it sounds like I'm just saying like remake the same movie again. But what I mean is like, these are examples of things that gave the original film ethos and gave the original film like this emotional weight and heart, so that when you see like Jackie Chan break down over the death of his family in The Karate Kid, you realize how much Jaden Smith means to him. This is a surrogate son.
Yeah.
You feel that emotional connection. And so the fight, yes, Jaden wants to win the fight. I forget Jaden's name, whatever. I'm just going to call him Jaden.
Right.
You want Jaden to win because you want him to overcome the adversary, but also it's because you want both of those characters, him and Mr. Han, to both have that moment of victory after a lifetime of defeats. And there's none of that here. So I that's where I'm like, is the film written by AI? Like, it has all the trappings of it, but none of it works, and none of the heart or weight is there. It's just like contextless scenes. So why, after all that I'm saying, did I give this 2.5 stars? It does not deserve 2.5 stars. It is a worse film than a lot of other films I've seen. I gave it 2.5 stars because on Letterboxd it's fun to be snarky and say the Johnny Lawrence cameo at the end gave it an entire star. And it did. Like, certainly it left the film on a high note. Like, it was going to leave a really bad taste in your mouth. And then you're like, oh, cool, I got to see these two characters interact again, and that was great. Even though it's only been since February. Right. But like, sure. But what, judged on its own as a film, this is like a 1-star film. There's nothing to this. And take away all the trappings of things that I like. I like Jackie Chan. I like Ralph Macchio. I like Ming-Na Wen. Take all that away. She has nothing to do here. Take all that away. and you're left with a movie that is just nothing, just a big nothing. And so again, like that's what it boils down to, is like, if you could take these characters and change Daniel LaRusso to Rick Mansfield and he's played by just some guy, this movie would mean nothing. It would have nothing to it. So that's what I mean by like these characters are like marketing ploys, or like at best just kind of like wallpaper for, trying to make it look fancier than it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a good movie, and it's by far the worst of the Karate Kid series. And it sucks because really for a long time, the Karate Kid franchise was viewed as just like a dead franchise, right? Like the third film kind of flopped, and the reboot with Hilary Swank didn't go anywhere. And then, and then Jackie Chan's didn't go anywhere. So it was just kind of like a flop of a franchise.
Yeah.
Cobra Kai came and resuscitated it, gave it life. And yes, it was low budget, but it felt really well written and the stories were really well felt. And so to me, it left the entire franchise on a high note and with a really good taste. Like as you walk away, like, man, that's a really solid story. And then we have this. And this could very well be the last thing we have from the Karate Kid universe ever. And that sucks. If they had just left well enough alone, and Cobra Kai in February of this year could have left things on a really high note, satisfying, fun. And it just kind of went too long, and it shouldn't exist. And now we just have this movie that we have to ignore.
Right.
But luckily it's easy because Machio does nothing in this movie. So whatever. But, it just shouldn't be here. And that's the worst thing ever. Like we've talked about this before, when you have to do mental gymnastics to ignore something.
Yeah. No.
It sucks. So I'm looking at the film's domestic opening here.
It's not, hadn't even cracked 50 million, but right now, has it?
No, and that's worldwide. Domestic was 21 million.
Yeah, it debuted at number 3, right?
Yeah, behind Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible.
It says the slight underperformance, was blamed on franchise fans becoming accustomed to the series being on Netflix after Cobra Kai.
Wrong. You can't blame like the fans don't want to go. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
That's like saying fans have become accustomed to seeing Taylor Swift on Spotify, so they're not going to go to the concert because that's ridiculous. Of course you will. If you're a fan, that's the whole point of being a fan, is you go where it goes.
So this is a very opinionated Deadline article. Normally they're kind of straight reporting, but this person, Anthony D'Alessandro, here's what it says. So why wasn't there a big rush to this film? Why is it under its projections? It's the Cobra Kai streaming Netflix effect, dummy.
Wow.
With the Karate Kid audience, shots fired.
Yeah.
With the Karate Kid audience conditioned to stay at home, what's the big reason for them to run out and watch another fight tournament on screen? Yes, as we said before, being in the shadow of Lilo and Stitch doesn't help given the overlap of certain demos. Families are on a budget and they're going to put their money toward the title that kids are nagging them to see. Okay.
Well, a couple things. One,
shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I would argue that after Cobra Kai, the series isn't made for kids anymore. And this is a problem because Cobra Kai like dropped F-bombs and like did its thing. Like it was violent and whatever. Like kids ended up paralyzed because they were punched in the back. Like it happened. Like it's fairly dark.
Mature. Yeah.
So I would argue that Karate Kid is not made for kids anymore. It's made for adults who remember it from the 80s. And Karate Kid Legends feels to me like by bringing in Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio, they were hoping to sell to that same demographic. It didn't feel like they were trying to sell to kids. It's rated PG-13.
Sure.
But like, if this had half the teeth that Cobra Kai had, it would have been rated R. Like Cobra Kai was, more mature than you would think it was. And so like Karate Kid Legends should have had more teeth, but regardless, to me, I don't buy that as like overlap with Lilo and Stitch, because I don't think kids were clamoring to watch Cobra Kai. So kids weren't going to be clamoring to watch this anyway.
No.
This had, if that is true, that they were aiming for that demographic with this, big swing and a miss, because that's not what the franchise was.
Hey everybody, it's Connor editing the episode. I wanted to pop in and explain a technical issue that is about to happen. Having issues with the mixer. I did something during this recording that ended up making Dustin's audio loop back to him. And when that happens, it cuts off all input from my microphone. And I didn't know how to fix it as it was happening. And I didn't realize until after the episode that it affects the recording. Fortunately, this happened during the end of the recording and everything else is fine. And Dustin records his own audio, so everything that he said from that point onward is still in the episode. There's just not going to be any crosstalk between us because my microphone is completely dead at this point during the episode. So I'm going to have to edit it a little more monologue-y for Dustin's sake. But just to explain why I suddenly disappear and Dustin is talking nonstop, because I effectively am dead at this point of the episode. So figured out how to fix it, possibly know how to fix it during the next recording. But this is a new problem with this mixer. I've had this mixer for 7 years, and this is a brand new problem it has. But I know how to avoid it, and I know how to fix it. I just don't like that it's a thing. And it's a very strange new problem. But that is life. So anyways, just wanted to explain any weirdness. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Bye.
Karate Kid Legends is not where it's at. And I guess if it has a $45 million budget and it's already made 47 worldwide, then it's made its money back. But it's not the success that they were probably hoping for. So sequel, doubt it. Like, if anything, Cobra Kai reignited the fan base. So I don't think, like, I didn't see the last one in theaters. I saw this one. So it reignited people like me. And so I would think this one would have done more, but it didn't. And I wonder if it's just that people could see right through it, or, in a way that I couldn't, or maybe it is just like a general, like, this feels weird to say, but Cobra Kai was very much Johnny Lawrence's story, and his absence in the marketing here and in the film may have rubbed people the wrong way. Like, he's now a valid and equal part of this thing, and to cut him out feels weird. And the fact that Cobra Kai, the show, didn't do anything to hype this up. Like, think about if Cobra Kai ended with Jackie Chan showing up and saying, "I need your help." Then you're like, oh, okay, hold up. I have to go see Karate Kid Legends. But that's not how it did. In fact, Cobra Kai ended with a very pointed, like, finality. So I don't know. It feels like, why would I go see that? The story's over. And one of my favorite characters isn't in it. Actually, not one of them. All of my favorite characters except for one, right? Because we just spent years with Shola Maraduena and everyone else who, like, Mary Mauser and Tanner Buchanan, like all these characters that we like. Not one of them is in the marketing. And I think if this film had been marketed and written properly to include some of those characters, 100% this would have been a smash. Pour one out for Ralph Macchio. I don't think this is the film he signed on for. If you go into this hoping that Jackie Chan's going to have some really awesome fight scenes, not a single one.
Okay, Dustin, we promised everyone we would check on the international box office of Karate Kid Legends.
Oh, did we? Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to, so it is June 17th as we record this. So I'm putting, this episode went out on Friday, the 20th. So this should be fairly accurate.
Okay.
Box office stuff. Do you have numbers?
I do have numbers.
Okay. So when we were talking in the review about it, it had just opened domestically and it had underperformed.
Yes.
How is it doing now?
It is on par with the domestic market. So domestically to date, it's made $44.9 million. Then internationally, it's made $45.8 million. So pretty much neck and neck for a grand total of $90.7 million.
Mm-hmm.
Not great.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the budget?
It's 45 million, it says here.
Okay, so the budget's 45 million.
Yeah.
Factor in, I mean, I feel like they marketed it fairly heavy. So factor in another 30, 40 for, for marketing. I don't know.
Yeah.
So the movie has broken even, I guess.
But this is a legacy sequel, like this is a well-known franchise, TV show leading up to it and everything. And so this is a disappointment for what it should have been, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think I know we talked a little bit about this in the actual episode, but as I've kind of, I don't know, thought about it more, it feels to me like it's just a matter of people didn't know what to make of this thing. Like, obviously, okay, Daniel LaRusso is in it, Jackie Chan is in it, but to what extent and what is it connected to really? And like Cobra Kai didn't end on a point where you feel like there needs to be more story, and the Karate Kid with Jackie Chan didn't end on a point where you feel like there needs to be more story. So it doesn't really feel like it's necessary for me to see this. So like I can kind of close the book on this without ever thinking like, oh, I should have seen the thing.
Yeah.
So for completionists like me, it's required viewing, but for most people, probably not.
Yep.
Even if they're fans.
Yeah, and we thought that maybe like the international market would give it like a huge boost, but those are not big numbers considering the international market. Like it's not like America is like half of the global box office. America's like a third of it, you know, and probably less pretty soon. A respectable number would be like $150 million gross.
Sure.
That, roughly 3 times the budget of the film is what you want to make. And so while it's kind of good that their budget was only 45 million, that's a middle budget film. We like those. Sure. It sort of just speaks more to like, yeah, even on that budget, like this isn't turning the profit that it should have.
Here's another interesting number, and then we can let it rest. Cobra Kai's finale. I have somewhat of a viewership number to attach to it. Now, the finale, the way that Netflix released it, they released the final season in 3 segments, months apart from each other. And evidently the first segment was pretty well viewed. And then by the time the last, I guess it was 3 or 5, I don't remember, episodes when they aired in that chunk, viewership was down. However, it still pulled in 6 million views. Now, 6 million views does not equate to 6 million people. Obviously some people could view it more than once, but the majority of people...
Is that per eyeball?
Right, yes. But 6 million views could actually mean more people because people are watching with other people.
Yes.
And the view only accounts as 1.
Yeah.
But 6 million views. And so if you take 6 million views, and I don't know what the actual average is of a ticket price, but let's just say $10, this film should have made $60 million if everybody who watched the finale watched this.
I feel like a good rule of thumb for views is to assume that every view is 1.5 people.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do the math here.
Because and my rationale for that is most people who are watching Netflix are either alone or probably with one person.
Yeah.
And I doubt that there's a significant amount of people that's like 3 or more watching Netflix together on a regular basis. It's either single people or like married couple, romantic partners.
Correct.
It's not like college students, on a couch en masse,
totally. I would agree.
Okay.
Even though the demographic here probably does skew more to that demographic.
Sure.
But it's fine. So evidently the national average ticket price is $16.08. So if we take, So if we take 6 million views times 1.5, we get 9 million. 9 million times $16 is going to be $144 million. That's what the film should have made if everyone who watched Cobra Kai watched this.
Yep.
So that's where it doesn't add up. It doesn't feel congruent, like something happened. And I think it's interesting to kind of consider why. Now, I'll be honest. I think if this film had been a Cobra Kai film and they finished the series and did a film, I think this would have pulled those numbers.
Oh, yeah.
But they didn't. Instead, they said this is something that is going to largely ignore Cobra Kai. No, not a single Cobra Kai character is featured in the marketing because not a single Cobra Kai character is featured in the film, except for the post-credit scene. Yeah. And so there's no tie to it. It's a weird thing, but it's effectively a spinoff, and so it was treated as such.
Yeah. All right. Well,
there you go.
Good luck to them. Please don't make any more.
Don't make them like this.
Yeah. Listen to this episode and make that.
Make that, or you know what? Just take the people that made Cobra Kai and make a Cobra Kai movie with the Cobra Kai cast, but with a better budget. Yep. I'm fine with it. But here's the truth. The story's done. Don't have to. You're fine. Just let it rest.
It's enough.
Yep. Sleep the leg.
Sleep the leg. You know what I called this episode?
What'd you call it?
I called it, hold on. It was going to be, that's not bad. I thought it was something closer to yours. I called it 2 branches, no tree.
2 branches, no tree.
Sleep the leg is funny though. Oh, I might change it. I don't know. All right, everyone. Sleep well.
Sleep your legs.
Sleep the leg.
Sleep the leg.
All right.
Get him a body bag. Get him a body bag.